Welcome into another episode of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. I'm Kyle Glaser alongside the great Mike Cameron, here to break down the Padres series victory over the Braves, take a look at where they stand as we hit the Memorial Day checkpoint, and look ahead to their upcoming series this week against the Miami Marlins. Mike, the Padres were on an ugly 6-game losing streak last week. They snapped out of it, took 2 of 3 from the Braves in Atlanta. Definitely a little bit of an exhale series. Safe to say they really needed that one.
Yeah, considering what happened in Toronto, where they, had a couple games where they kind of got out of hand a little bit for them, but they were able to bounce back against a Braves team that been playing pretty well here recently. And then, with their new acquisition, the right fielder, Ronald Acuna, so they were able to withstand that at home in a big series in over the weekend, Memorial Weekend type of atmosphere. So they stood tall. I mean, so when it just seems like when one guy isn't like calibrating very well on the team, um, Manny Machado seems like he's still that guy. So it is a beautiful sight for the team when you still have that type of player in your lineup. That when things go haywire, you still have a guy that's a pillar in the lineup to get the job done.
No question. Manny Machado had a huge series, 6 for 15, hit 2 big home runs. Gavin Sheets, 4 home runs in the last 4 games with some big,
Yeah.
big, big timely bombs. We're going to get into that a little bit more. But big picture, what really stood out to me about this series, and really even the final game of the Toronto series, is we started seeing the Padres get back to the team we saw at the beginning of the year after getting blasted 14-0 in that ugly, ugly, ugly game against the Blue Jays. Next game out, they came back multiple times, again and again and again, to push that game into the 11th inning, put themselves in position to win. Gavin Sheets really carrying the load there. And that's something we hadn't seen this team do, that ability to come back from deficits we saw them do so early in the year. That had disappeared a little bit, with the exception of a game here, a game there. But it was good to see them do that in Toronto. And they ended up coming back 3 of the last 4 games of this road series. So it's really good to see them get back to that. But what really stood out to me most was on Friday, even before the 9th inning with Manny Machado's home run and Eli White's base running blunder and all the things that kind of went crazy there at the end. We saw this team start to get back to trying to make something happen as opposed to waiting for something to happen. It really jumped out to me in the 6th inning, tie game 1-1. Manny Machado's on first. Chris Sale has a 2-strike count on Jackson Merrill, and Manny Machado attempted to steal second. And it was exactly the right thing to do there. Again, 1-1, Chris Sale on the mound, lefty on lefty, 2 strikes. You know it's going to be a breaking ball there because it's Chris Sale. You know you're getting slider. It was a good go by Machado. It was the right time to do it. Sean Murphy just made a great play and threw him out. But then the very next inning, same situation. Xander Bogaerts is on first. Gavin Sheets at the plate. Again, Chris Sale on the mound. 2 strikes, left on left. Bogaerts goes because you know you're getting a breaking ball, successfully steals second. 9th inning, even before Manny's home run, Elias Diaz would have been a double down into the right field corner. Ronald Acuna Jr. just made a great throw to get him out,
Yeah.
but Diaz didn't hesitate. He was thinking 2 bags the whole way. And that's something we had seen this team get away from. They were so good earlier in the year about pushing the pace, forcing the defense to make a play, putting that constant pressure on opponents. They'd gotten away from that. Friday, starting with Machado's steal attempt, we started seeing them get back to that. I thought that was a really good sign. Even though 2 of those 3 plays, they ended up getting thrown out, each time it was the right move. They were smart. They were aggressive. The defense just made a play. But that's the style of baseball the Padres need to be playing. And I just thought it was really good to see them get back to that beginning of that Friday game.
Yeah, it is something that we continue to look through, and it takes like this is the way the team been playing was the reason why they got off to a great start in the first place. Sometimes the offense is maybe sputtered a little bit from time to time, but for the most part, the team has been consistent in the matter of what they're doing. You're going to run into some stretches where you're not going to be at your best. And and it is going to take a total team effort to try to dig out of it. It's going to take some guys other than your Machados and your Tatises and in this point, your Gavin Sheets to be able to contribute to the lineup to the lineup or the team in itself. And they took a giant step. I feel like getting back and playing against a Braves team of this caliber right now, which was playing I guess, pretty well as of recently as they hasn't played, up until this point. But at the same time, it's the Padres baseball that people are used to seeing,
Right.
and guys taking notice and playing, um, like very aggressive, and that is what we talked about early on in the season, and it seems like guys, okay, we got righted our ship a little bit, and
Yep.
they started to do a much better job, and that was one reason why they were able to take this series.
No question. Again, finishing out this road trip, coming back 3 times in 4 games. Again, even though they lost the Blue Jays game in extra innings, just the fact they were able to come back was really, really huge. Again, we talk about getting back to playing that aggressive style of baseball. That Friday game against the Braves really was reminiscent of what they were doing early in the season, where, hey, they got punched in the mouth early with Ronald Acuna
Yeah.
Jr. hitting a 467-foot home run on his first pitch back, which was incredible. But then Nick Pivetta completely shuts it down. Gavin Sheets hits a game-tying home run, bounces right back at the top of the second inning to tie the game. Again, they start playing aggressive baseball, and in the ninth, Manny Machado comes up big, hits a go-ahead home run, and the Padres catch a breaks. Sometimes you got to catch breaks. We saw that happen in the ninth with Eli White. In the Saturday game, look, Michael King, your ace starter, gets scratched an hour before
Yeah.
the game. You have to cobble together a bullpen game. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's the game. Okay, throw it away, whatever it is, what it is. And then Sunday, coming back again, down 3-1 with Spencer Schwellenbach on the mound, a really,
Yeah.
really, really talented young pitcher. Gavin Sheets game tying 2-run homer, Jake Cronenworth home run, Manny
Yeah.
Machado home run. Just that ability to come back, come up with big hits in big spots, playing aggressive baseball, taking it to the other team. I really thought that the Padres did a great job of showing the resilience, both on a micro level of what happened on Friday, bouncing back
Yeah.
from the Acuna home run, because that could have gotten away from them in a hurry. And then also on a macro level, look, they were on the mat after scoring 1 run in each of 3 games against the Mariners. They're getting shut out in back-to-back games against the Blue Jays and getting
Yeah.
blasted 14-0, playing their worst game of the season. And they
Yeah.
came back and they showed the resilience they've shown all year. It was just a really, really good sign the way they finished this weekend, because I'm not going to lie, there were some really, really worrying trends we were seeing, and I talked about them last week. And at the end of the day, every team's going to go through bad stretches. Every team's going to go through slumps. Everyone's going to have bad days and bad games. It's about how you respond. And I thought the Padres as a team responded really, really well to what was one of the more disheartening stretches of the year, which, again, shows you what good teams are made of. And the Padres keep showing us they're able to stay strong and bounce back from tough stretches, even though it can be a little bit of painful when you're in those tough stretches.
Definitely, Kyle. So, like, the one of the biggest thing I've seen, when you look at a team that you think that could compete in late October and moving forward, is a team that's able to, recalibrate and still, not lose it all. The Padres has this type of caliber baseball team. Although you're going to go through some stretches where things are going to be tough. I mean, you're going to play a lot. Sometimes you're going to play more one-run games. And then you're going to have your boppers be able to carry you sometimes. But the most consistent thing that you can do is obviously is the pitching and defense, which always keeps you around for an opportunity to win a ball game. And as long as they can continue to do that and stay in the mix, because look, over this whole stretch, over this 6, 7, or 10 game stretch, they're still only 2 games back of the Dodgers. So that's another good sign of a good team, and maybe a little bit of luck as far as other teams and where they're playing also. So, it kind of goes hand in hand. We're at that 51, 52 game stretch right now. And one of the biggest things I'll never forget, one of my buddies always told me, and that was Cinco Ocho. Um, he would always tell me, he said, look, you're going to win 50 and you're going to lose 50.
Yep.
Those those next 50 is where you make your hay at, and those are where the good teams show up at. So, like, that is one of the biggest. I always remember that, because over the course of a season we are, sometimes get in fanatic mode, and you're high when your team is high, you're low when your team is low. But
Yep.
as a player, you have to go out and try to compete to get a victory on a nightly basis, and most good teams start to show up throughout the course of a season, and what they're capable of doing by, one, their pitching and their defense, and then when your offense steps up, when you have the capabilities and the caliber of players that the Padres have, they're in a good spot.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, we have a lot more to talk about. Want to go into Manny Machado a little bit more. Whether Gavin Sheets is the Padres MVP to this point in the season, he honestly has a very strong case. Take stock of where this team is at Memorial Day, and again, look ahead to their upcoming series against the Marlins. We're going to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
FT fam, you might have a boring, old, crusty, unpretty razor, and it might be expensive. So, AJ, should they consider another option?
Look how cool this is. Look at the color scheme. Look at it. Little sheath to hide the blades when you travel. Works great. I've been using this for a couple weeks now with Harry's. Clean, no bumps, no cuts. Works great. And you know the best part? It's a great price, especially if you use the Foul Territory code, Scott.
That's right. Harrys.com/foul. Guess what? You can also get yourself a no-risk trial. So if you don't like your shave, no worries. It's on Harry's. They're not worried about it. Get the edge on your shave with Harry's. Normally, the trial set is $10, but right now, you can get it for just $6 at harrys.com/foul. Use the exclusive link, harrys.com/foul, for a $6 trial set.
All right, welcome back to Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. Kyle Glaser alongside Mike Cameron. Mike, we talked about this team being resilient, bouncing back, and one of the players who I thought was really at the focal point of that was Manny Machado. I talked about it on the show last week with Heath Bell. During that 14-0 loss, what opened the floodgates in the seventh was Manny Machado committing back-to-back errors. And look, errors are going to happen over the course of the season, but the first one was really concerning. It was a ground ball to third base. He just didn't get behind. He olayed it, and that was really, really concerning. He was also in the midst of a 2-for-24 slump at the plate, which continued into the Thursday day game. And the thing with Manny Machado, we've talked about, everyone's talked about, everyone who's covered him like I have for years knows it, that he's an incredibly talented player, Hall of Fame caliber resume. But when things go south sometimes, he can kind of check out. He can start going through the motions, and things will start to spiral a little bit. And the concern when you saw him just kind of olay that ball in the midst of a losing streak and everything spirals from there, it was like, okay, which Manny Machado are we going to see here? Are we going to see the guy who steps up and is a leader? Are we going to see the guy who starts playing really nonchalant and going through the motions? And this series against the Braves, I thought was a great bounce back on his part, which showed a lot of maturity. It's not just what he did at the plate, 2 big home runs, including a game winner, on Friday in the 9th inning. We saw him get back to playing that engaged, focused, energetic baseball. I mentioned the stolen base attempt on the Friday game, which again, he got thrown out, but it was the right read. It was the right move. It was the right time. And then also he had a great barehanded play where he didn't get Ozzie Albies, but it was still a great play where he was on it, got off on the ball quick. I just thought this was a really impressive series for Manny Machado. Look, we all make mistakes. We all have bad days. We all have moments that we're not proud of. It's about how you bounce back. And at times in the past, we have seen Manny Machado sometimes let those bad moments spiral. And again, he checks out. He didn't do that this series. He came up big. I mentioned 6 for 15, hitting 4 home runs, hitting 2 big home runs, hitting 400 on the bases defensively. It was just really good to see. And look, the Padres followed. We've talked about it. Manny Machado is the guy who puts this team on his back when everything is right. And he did that in a big way this series.
Yeah, Cal. So one of the things that I noticed that we can easily do is go back and look at what has been done in the past with Manny. I think we talked about this a little bit earlier in one of the shows where it seems like he has become not just, he always been a guy that leads by example in a sense, but I think he's become more of a vocal leader. But at the same time, I think Manny understands, that a lot rides on him and the way his team is performing in a sense. And he probably did have a couple of moments or whatever on the field, far as defensively or whatever. But we do know that Manny is one of the premier and still is one of the premier third basemen in the league.
Yep.
And sometimes you can just take a step back yourself, and reboot. It may be on a plane ride or somewhere else. It may be someone talking to you on the plane or whatever it may be. That like we need to get going here. We need to continue to get back on track and play well. And what better way than to have your big guy, your star, one of your superstars, step up and contribute in a way that you need to. Those homers that he hit, they were like late inning homers. Those
Yep.
are, the ones that the game tying to put you ahead or whatever it may be or win a ball game. So this was the type of energy that they needed from Manny, and he has this capability, obviously. And when many players don't, we know the guy can get big hits when nobody else can. So just kind of can see him, like you said, engaged and using other assets. We know that he's been playing on maybe not the most healthiest legs, but to see him still get out and be aggressive for his team is a good sign for the team in itself. And that is a tribute to Manny and himself and what he's able to do and rise to the occasion, so to speak. And hopefully that he can continue to ignite the team and do it in a positive way.
Yeah, we talk about Manny as a leader. This was a leader moment. Hey, bad game. He was at the center of it. Bounces back. As you mentioned, these home runs were big. It was the game-winning home run in the 9th inning on Friday to help snap the losing streak. On Sunday, a huge insurance home run late as well. Again, just a great series by Manny. The guy who set the Padres up to win a lot of these games, though, was Gavin Sheets. Again, obligatory Gavin Sheets mention on Friar Territory, but we have to because he has been so good. Gavin Sheets game-tying home run in the 9th inning on Thursday in Toronto. Then Friday, again, an underrated part of the Padres win that day. Again, Ronald Acuna Jr., first pitch back, hits a home run. Truist Park is going crazy. You could see that game getting out of hand real fast. What does Gavin Sheets do? Top of the second, comes up, ties the game, 1-1 with a home run himself. Big response home run there. And then, of course, in the finale on Sunday, game-tying 2-run home run off Spencer Schwellenbach. Gavin Sheets, 4 home runs in his last 4 games. But here's the crazy statistic. Gavin Sheets has 10 home runs this year. 6 of them have been game-tying or go-ahead shots. He's not just hitting home runs and supplying power. He's hitting home runs and supplying power when the Padres need it most in big spots.
Yeah, like that is something that to take notice of. Gavin has been solid, and he's been pretty much an everyday player. So he's in there against the lefties and the righties, and that's a good sign for the team to actually have a 5th or 6th guy in this lineup that is able to supply some power for one, and power in opportunities and in a time that the team needs it. And hopefully he can continue to have success, because as long as Gavin Sheets is having success, it takes the pressure off of Tatis, it takes the pressure off of Cronenworth, it takes the pressure off of Manny, and also I don't want to forget about Bogarts, and so it allows. I mean, we know that Arise is going to do what Arise do. He's always if he doesn't get any hits, he's going to do something in the game. It's going to be a 10 pitch at bat. It's going to be doing something. So, so that is a very good sign for the team. And, kudos to to Gavin, because he's playing so well. And also in him playing well, it builds his confidence in what he's capable of doing, and which it kind of feeds off. The team feeds off of that in a sense, like, oh, we got another guy that can get it done also. So, and it puts the pressure on other teams. It's like, man, we got another guy in this lineup to worry about. And so that is a very helpful thing going down the stretch as we get into the months where you play, not many days off now, like you're going to play a nice little stretch where, the guys are doing. But one thing I think is looking through this right here, it ultimately builds a lot of confidence for Gavin Sheets.
Gavin Sheets is on pace to hit 283 with 31 homers and 97 RBIs this year. That's something I think no one saw coming. We talked about in spring training, hey, he looks a lot better. You can see the changes in his posture, his stance. He was hitting lefties. It's like, hey, this guy is different. I think he's going to have a big year. Again, I think even the most optimistic projections, I don't think anyone had 283 with 31 bombs and 97 RBIs. And we'll see if he can keep it up. But it's a testament to him, what he's doing. And now it's just about keeping it up. But everything he's shown us so far is he can keep it up. There have been some ups and downs like every other player, but he always finds a way to produce when the Padres need it most. And Mike, one of the things we saw happen on Sunday is Gavin Sheets went out to left field, and he'd done it before, but for the most part, he's been the Padres DH. And one of the things I talked about with Heath Bell on the show last Thursday was that realistically, given the Padres' offensive struggles, how it had been a more or less 3-week decline, they were really struggling during the Mariners series, the Blue Jays series. It was time to shake some things up a little bit, and that meant bringing Luis Camposano up to be their everyday DH, moving Gavin Sheets out to left field. That was going to give them the best 1-9 in their lineup day in and day out. And it's just going to be a matter of, okay, Sheets goes out, does the early work to improve his defense in left field. We saw the Padres do that. They brought Luis Camposano up over the weekend. Jason Hayward went on the IL. Camposano was the DH on Sunday. Gavin Sheets in left field on Sunday as well. I do think that moving forward, this is the lineup the Padres need to roll with. This is the lineup that makes them the most dangerous. Also, Sheets moved up to the 5th spot ahead of Bogarts. I think that right now they need to give Camposano a month, even 2 months, just everyday DH, lefties, righties, you're in there, you're our guy. Make Gavin Sheets the left fielder, because we know this team, when everyone is rolling, the offense is really, really dangerous, but there's been a lot of stretches where they just don't have the depth when a few of their key guys go into slumps. I do think what we saw on Sunday, that lineup, with the exception, of course, of Elias Diaz being the starting catcher over Martin Maldonado, I do think that's the lineup they need to be rolling with moving forward.
Yeah, so like it's not like Gavin haven't played in the outfield before.
Yeah.
So he has some experience out there. It's just not like thrown to the wolves out there. Just kind of recalibrating himself,
It's
getting
not
back
Will
out
Myers
there.
in center field or
Yeah,
in left field or
exactly.
things that never should
Yeah.
happen. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's helpful for the team at this moment right now, because they do need some production from the left field position.
Yeah.
And with that being said, you bring in Capisano, who's been there before. He's experienced this. He's contributed some in the past. So it helps out the team. And then you can always, if the game is close out of hand, you can always, you can flip it. You can put your lock bridge in.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I forgot what the rules are as far as, like, once you start playing a position, can you go to DH, and do you lose the DH if you take
No,
a
I
lock?
mean, it would be a situation where Brandon Lockridge or Jason Hayward, when he comes off the IL, become the late game defensive replacement for Gavin Sheets.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this is the most potent offense. That
Yeah.
lineup.
Yeah, so that is the most important thing, is keeping Gavin, keep his, hopefully by him running out in left field a whole lot, it doesn't, derail him leg wise to zap some of his power. But I think he understands where the team is at the position they're at. And as long as the guys that are still having consistent ABs, your Tatises, your Arizes, your Meros and Machados, and Bogey and Crony, if they're able to do their thing, then it allows Sheets just to be the player that he's become so far, and helps the team put them in a position to win ball games on a nightly basis.
Absolutely. All right, Mike. So big picture, you've talked a lot about this. Memorial Day is the checkpoint where you feel like you really know who a team is and what they are. The old adage is 50 games after 50, you know who your team is. The Padres are at 53 games right now. Based on everything we've seen so far, given, again, Memorial Day, 50 games, those are the checkpoints where it's like, okay, this is who this team is. How do you assess the Padres and frankly, what their identity is and who they are and what their talent level is?
Just I feel like they've almost, in a sense, started to, because we didn't know what the staff was looking like, especially on the bottom part of the pitching staff. You've had guys step up and to make them into a real contender, where the GM Thriller is looking to add some pieces to help out. The bullpen's been stellar. Anytime you have a great bullpen and you play good defense, you're always going to have a chance to win ball games. And having Tatis up until this point perform like a potential MVP, just stellar offense from Manny, and getting a rise back after being hurt, and also getting Jackson Merrill from being hurt. It puts them in a place, man, where you're gonna have to compete very well to be one of those top seeds in the NL, and they've done that at a very good high level at this point. And so I feel like they are a real team that you have to consider and be concerned with throughout the NL West and the NL in itself, because they do have the capabilities of these players and also their pitching, and they're going to gain some experience back in that, and hopefully that they're able to continue those things down the stretch, because it's going to be important as guys start to play very well. They've been playing very well, and they have been short in some positions, sometimes offensively in the catching department and also probably in left field. So it just looks to, like you just have to try to maintain the health of your guys that are on the field, and hopefully they don't miss much time, because we do know they're short on the bench and short in the system in itself. So, that has caused Prilla to go out and look for some players. And but for the most part, I would give the team, as we started out saying, I mean, they're probably A minus because of, just some other shortcomings on offensive side. So they are very much so in the mix, and they should continue to do that.
Yeah, you mentioned Jackson Merrill. We haven't mentioned him yet on the show. He's bounced back nicely after a little bit of slump as well. 5 for 16 this winning streak. Just good to see him get a couple knocks. Get a stroke back. And Tatis is struggling right now. Again, everyone's going to go through slumps at different points of the season.
Yeah.
But it's important. That's when Machado and Merrill step up. It was when all three of them were struggling. That was when we saw the offense really, really slow down. Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's two ways to look at the Padres season, and I go back and forth on how I assess them. On the one hand, in some ways, to paraphrase, the late great Dennis Green, San Diego resident, by the way, they are they are who we thought they were. Coming in there, said I think they're a third place team in the National League West, is going to be right on the fringes of playoff contention. We both thought they'd be the first team out, and you look at it, that's exactly where they are. They're third place in the National League West, and they're, depending on the day, who wins, who loses, either number 6 or number 7 in the NL playoff race at this point.
Yeah.
So in some ways, they're exactly who we thought they are. On the other hand, because the highs have been so high and the lows have been so low, it hasn't been like most teams have a seasons like this a little bit. Padres, it's been this. They look like world beaters, and then they can't score for a week. I mean, it's been extremes. And it evens out at, they're, again, a winning ball club, third place in the NL West, right on the fringes of playoff contention, which is how I thought it would go. But I think the highs have been so high. I will say there's more upside to this team than I initially thought. When they are right, they are better than I initially thought. And that's where I've said, look, I'll own it. I was light on this team. As they've gone into a little bit of this, recent slide, it's looking more and more like, at the end of the day, the end result is going to be where I thought they were. But there's more upside and more potential to do damage than I thought there was. And then, again, a testament to the caliber of baseball they play when they're right, pitching, defense, base running, the style they play being super aggressive, Mike Shildt being a great manager. It's just a matter of keeping that up. So I think right now I give them a B+ in the sense that, again, yes, they're right where I thought they'd be, but there's more here than I thought there would be. And again, we talk about Padres MVPs. There's a lot of contenders. Fernando Tatis Jr., even with this, recent slump, has been huge for the team. Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill, Nick Pivetta has been fantastic. Gavin Sheets, Michael King, unfortunately, just went on the IL with shoulder inflammation. So many guys have stepped up, had big seasons. By the way, Jake Cronenworth's got an on-base percentage up, in the 380s. I mean, he's been really good without a lot of fanfare either. So I do think this team has shown that, hey, they're a good team. They're capable of doing damage. But as we talked about over and over and over, they don't necessarily have the depth of talent to still excel when multiple guys are injured or multiple guys are slumping at the same time. And that's true for every team to different degrees. For the Padres, it's extra pronounced. It's extra true. But so far, they've done a nice job. And they've played a fairly tough schedule, too. You look at the opponents they've played. Yeah. It's not going to get easier. They're in the midst of playing 23 games in 24 days. And starting in June, they have 14 games against the Giants, D-backs, and Dodgers in the first half of the month. So it's overall, again, you have A-, I have B+. Overall, give the Padres credit for what they've done. It would just be nice if instead of this super high, super low, out a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're probably going to go through these stretches a little bit as a unit
Yeah.
because of some of the inconsistency offensively,
Yeah.
in at other spots. But as long as you're able to keep the health of your pitchers, hopefully they can still be productive. As
Yeah.
you just stated, the most important stretch right now is these 23 out of 24.
Yeah.
Hopefully, a lot of those games are on the West Coast where it preserves your body.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, the Padres took a long ride back west after a big series. So hopefully they don't come into today and falter against a Marlins team that can be tough. They won a couple of games straight. I know we're going to talk about them in a little bit, but I wanted to kind of bring that together. So the Padres are in a good spot. They're in a good spot. And probably the biggest thing is keeping guys healthy more than the consistency of the players themselves because of the detriment of them not having the depth that they need to contribute in this stretch run because they're going to have to play some good baseball down the stretch to stay in the mix. And now we're starting to get into that mix now.
No question about it. And as you mentioned, health, Michael King going on the injured list with shoulder inflammation. Obviously, whenever your ace starter goes on the injured list and here's shoulder, it's a little concerning. But look, this is the time to do it. Get him healthy, shut him down. You don't want to push anything here. It's still May. It feels like there's a lot of baseball that's been played. We still have 110 games left in the season. There's a lot of baseball still left. So no reason to push him, shut him down, get him healthy. Hopefully it's nothing that lingers. And Mike, moving into this week, you mentioned Padres have 6 straight home games coming up, 3 against the Marlins beginning today here on Memorial Day, 3 against the Pirates. And we talk about, again, you have to take care of business against the teams you're supposed to take care of business against. The Marlins and Pirates are both last place teams. After this is when the Padres go into that stretch of 14 games against the Dodgers, Giants, and D-backs with 3 games at Milwaukee thrown in there as well. And the Brewers are never an easy team to deal with. So this is where they really, really, really need to kind of create some breathing room. Obviously, it'd be great to go 6-0 during the stretch, but even 5-1, 4-2 at the worst, just because it's about to get tough. And again, these are the teams you should beat, especially at home.
Yeah, so let's start with the Marlins. The Marlins have been playing, fairly good baseball. They do have a couple of arms on that
Yeah.
team that could shut an offense down.
Yeah.
But I feel like, the Marlins kind of beat themselves a lot. They make a lot of errors. They do play very well though, they have been playing well. I watched them a little bit against the Angels, just because I'm, gonna go see that in Anaheim. And then the Pirates have some good young starters also. And obviously, the number one is Paul Skeens. And, hopefully they can miss this guy. I doubt they will, but, hopefully they can miss Skeens. But they do have some pretty good young arms also. It just, these teams that you're playing that have these records that they have, there's a reason why they have these records. And it's possible. And all you have to do is just continue to play good baseball. And more than likely, your team is going to show up on the winning side of the game because of what you are and what you created so far and what you're supposed to be. So, as you said, hopefully they can probably, focus on trying to get the game 1 win and don't play down to the level of the team that you're playing, because these other teams coming in, they're hyped to come in. The Marlins are hyped to come into San Diego and play against the Machados and the Tatises and be in San Diego in the atmosphere, because they don't have these things at home. So, the younger guys rise to the occasion with that situation. So you just have to make sure that you're focused and playing good baseball or continue to play good baseball and not have that lull coming off of a 6-game losing streak, fight to come back and win a game, and then go in and play a team that's playing pretty decent, and get back home. You don't want to have that letdown and have to start all over again, the climb that you've kind of ascended from, coming out of that 6-game losing streak. So, it'd be good for the team to be back home. It's always good to be back home, but you also have to understand that, you have to defend home and try to make it tough for teams to win on your turf.
No question about it. And I'm glad you brought up the fact the Marlins have some good arms, because this isn't your typical last place patsy. Again, they're position players. It's a very, very young group, and that's where you see a lot of the mistakes. But they have some arms who are really, really, really potent, starting with their Monday starter, Ryan Weathers, former Padres draft pick. A lot of Padres fans remember him, of course. He's now sitting 97 from the left side, getting up to 98, 99. The changeup is playing. The slider plays on both sides of the plate. He's another one of those Padres draft picks who was brought up really, really, really fast. Remember, they brought him straight up from high A to pitch in the postseason against the Dodgers, and then put him in the rotation the next year, which, again, did not work. He missed some really key developmental points. But now that he's the right age, has the right amount of experience, he's really blossoming into the player we saw was a top 10 pick and really becoming a really, really deadly lefty in that Marlins rotation. He was good last year. He's good this year too. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup, especially given the Padres have struggled against good lefties so far this year. And then on Saturday, Max Meyer, another young pitcher who can bring it. Fastball sits mid to upper 90s and an absolutely dastardly slider. And that slider is disgusting. And then the finale on Wednesday, you get Sandy Alcantara, and I know he's struggling. It's his first year coming off a TJ. He's still Sandy Alcantara. He's still a guy any given day is capable of going 7 scoreless with 11 punch outs on 89 pitches.
Yeah. I mean, look, everyone's talking, but they're saying, oh, he's struggling, he's not this, and it's like, bro, you got to understand what this he is climbing and building back himself. I saw him pitch the other day, and just like he just wasn't himself. His location wasn't there. No matter how hard you throw, if you don't, if you're not locating the ball, or you don't, or getting guys to chase that slider that he has. It's going to be a long day, but because he's a big league hitters. And the one thing about the Marlins, they do have a couple of guys that are they're consistent and playing very well. And my son played with him on that AAA team for the Orioles in 2023, and Cal Stowers and Connor Norby. So they do have some guys that can get it done on their team. Is just that I think that they beat themselves a lot, and you don't want to be the team to allow them to come in and beat you up in a sense, because you're trying to maintain your position and also get better in the consistency, knowing that you as a player, you don't look that far ahead, but that you got a big stretch coming up against some teams where you have to play good baseball in order to stay in the position in the standings.
Yeah, no, again, the Marlins are a team, they're a last place team, but there's enough talent here that you can't go and sleepwalking against them. You have to be sharp, you have to play your game. And if you do, you'll be fine. But as we saw, the Angels were riding high. They'd won 8 straight. They'd swept the Dodgers. The Marlins then took 2 of 3 against them to finish the series. So, I mean, there is talent on this Miami team that can surprise you. So I think it's important the Padres come in focused and keep riding that momentum they built over that finale in Atlanta. I will be covering the series down at Petco Park, so stay tuned for all the live coverage. Mike, it's been a pleasure. Any final thoughts as we wrap up here on this beautiful Memorial Day weekend, or Memorial Day?
It's always a special time when you do the Memorial Day, when you get a chance to do it at home in San Diego, because there's a very big presence of the veterans and also the armed forces in a sense. So it's always a special day to do that. And hopefully you guys are starting to get some sun over there now. So you'll see people at the parks, and it always, like I said, it's always good and refreshing to be in a place like San Diego when these days are this Memorial Weekend is a very big part of baseball. So, kudos to those guys and to all of the veterans who've contributed to the freedom of our life, and hopefully, the Padres can put some good entertainment on against these Miami Marlins.
Beautifully stated, Mike. We really, really appreciate your expertise and insight as always. Mike is heading out on a nice little trip to the Bahamas, so enjoy it. We look forward to seeing you when you get back next Monday.
Definitely. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone. This has been another episode of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. Go ahead and give us a review. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever platform you're watching and listening on. We'd love to hear from you. Rate us 5 stars. Leave us comments. Show us the love. Give us everything you got. For Mike Cameron, I'm Kyle Glaser. Thanks for watching and listening. See you later this week.